So welcome back to the Sapphire Digital Garden. I am absolutely thrilled to have John Burke from UBIX Labs with me today. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Chris.
So today's topic is going to be, I think, really interesting for our listeners and viewers. The Digital Garden talks a lot about some of the things that are going on in the world that are really exciting and interesting, and there's probably nothing more interesting than data. It's the constant theme of our industry in the tech space. But obviously for our viewers, which are going to be predominantly in finance functions, operational, supply chain, IT operations, I think data to them is still a little bit of just normal data is a little bit of a nebulous concept. But today we're going to be talking about data science. We're going to be talking about advanced use of data, but hopefully in a fairly consumable way. So first of all, John, give our viewers a bit of an intro, give a bit of background about yourself and UBIX Labs, where you guys came from.
Well, thank you for having me. And so UBIX is based out of Southern California, but we are in offices all over the world. My background was I started at Price Waterhouse, so background as a CPA, but I did mergers and acquisition advisory work, corporate turnaround, bankruptcy restructuring, and then the dot-coms. I was always in the technology practice. And so when the dot-coms started percolating up, I jumped out to be the first hired an executive for a company called Website Story, which was the pioneers in SaaS-based web analytics. And so that was my first entree into web analytics and analytics in general. And so fast forward a number of years, we took it public. We're 700 and some people around the world. And then we merged with our number one competitor, Omniture, and then sold to Adobe. And so what Adobe Analytics was formation with both Website Story and Omniture. So a very fun run. And then I did corporate turnaround work for 7 years, did 7 turnarounds in 7 years, and 12 acquisitions during that time as a stand-in distressed software CEO or COO. And then I met my business partner, Miles Mahoney, who's our chief revenue officer at UBIX, and we started UBIX to really bring data science and AI and advanced analytics to everyone, right? And so that's really
fantastic. Yeah. Well, that's it's interesting, isn't it? Going back to the dot-com, I remember living in New Hampshire and seeing an advert for dog food delivered to your house, and I went, that's never going to take off. They were just 10 years.
They were just too early.
Just 10 years too early. So I think today's Digital Garden, I really want to try and illuminate data for our for our viewers, and specifically in terms of there's a really good stat which I think is 68% of all data created in businesses is never used after the day it's created, right? Yeah. Which feels to me like a huge wasted digital dividend that people are missing. What was the logic behind the UBIX Labs? Kind of what's your purpose and passion as an organization?
So UBIX is a bit of an indictment on how some of the big firms are telling you have to deploy this type of technology. And so everyone heard of the promise of data science and AI, and the promise is very real, but most companies can't really tap into it because they can't retain or acquire the right talent. They're being told that they have to build it. Right. So and the cloud providers have made it easier for you to string together these different capabilities, but they don't play nice to each other out of the box. And so it's a huge software development and network development effort, plus the hiring and the change of the organization. And so we just felt that there was a better way, right? And so we set out to create the only no-code advanced analytics platform that's end-to-end from connection to source data all the way through productionizing, solving models and productionizing them. So you don't have to wait for the 12 to 18 months to roll something out. You can be operational within a week.
Yeah, and I think that's part of you talked about two things there, which I think are really interesting to to me anyway, right? Because I have to talk about this all the time. Is we've got a skills shortage, and everybody says the number one skill shortage is data science, or has been, right? I think cyber's probably in there as well. And then the other thing I think that people get quite frustrated in some of these new technologies is somebody walks in and goes, aha, this is what I could do with your data. And then you say, great, can I do that every day? And they say, ooh, you can't really do it. So that ability to, is it shortcut, or that ability to allow companies to consume these advanced capabilities, that's got, that's what's been holding back.
Yeah.
Which is why that 68% of data is not being used effectively, because people can't unlock, because they haven't got the talent, and also they can't productionize it. Because seeing it once is great, but you want to see it every day, and that's
that piece of theirs. IBM did a study that in that 87% of models that had efficacy never reached production, right? Because they were in a Jupyter notebook, they were relying on the out-of-system ETL process to analyze it, and so they'd say, "Oh, this great innovation, and let's bring this to life," but the cost to productionize it was significantly more than, because their processes weren't in line, they didn't have a streaming environment for the data to be coming in. There's so much additional complexity. So just solving the problem is one piece, but then once you've solved it, you have to bring it to life. And that's why UBIX allows you with one click to bring a model to life and productionize it along with applications that allow you to interact with it. And so we just feel it's a better way for most businesses, and it allows people to take advantage of this great capability without saying that you have to hire a team of data scientists, spend 7 figures on building this thing out, and then you have to maintain it, right? Because there's the cost of maintaining it. Once you've built it, there's almost a very similar cost to that every year to maintain it.
So, and I think I was going to throw a few examples that we've been talking about, I know, but so we've got lots of customers with supply chains, and then lots of customers in finance. So they're the two. I mean, we've got asset customers, so we may talk about that in a second. And it's really interesting, isn't it? Is you sit there with those platforms wondering, wondering what you could do with your data. And I got a customer, £20 million business in the UK, tableware hospitality business, and they order big pallets of stuff from the Far East, all of their products. And if they can make that just 1 or 2% more efficient in what they're ordering, there's a phenomenal benefit to them as a business in terms of cash flow, in terms of revenue, waste, and all those. So have you got a couple of, obviously the UBIX platform's got lots and lots of different use cases now. You've been building out a library, but are there a few that kind of jump out in finance or supply chain that we can talk about?
The supply chain has been probably one of our faster growing areas because things have changed, right? And there's very seldom that you can rely on, and being on the West Coast of the United States, you could count on 28 days on the water. Now it's a high, range, right? From at the best case scenario, 28 days could be 2-3 months, right? And around critical supply, that's really hard. And so being able to predict not only when it'll be available to promise or available to sell, is not as easy as just adding 28 days from when it ships, right? And so there's a lot of moving pieces. And so it's the importance of having this, not only external data, but not only enterprise data, but external data, such as what are those commodity prices and what is the volatility of what those things are, and what is the volatility of transport, right? Because the whole supply chain has become more challenging, right? And so I would say supply chain's a huge one. Fintech around fraud. We have a number of very large financial services clients in the credit card space. And primarily our involvement is on the marketing side. So you've got the marketing analytics of able to bring dynamic, customer segmentation in real time, right? Dealing with a very dynamic data set that's coming in, being able to actually profile and understand those customers in real time. And that's the power of these things, is that we focus on our choice as a business. We focus on not the problems such as that solve tens of dollars of problems, but solve hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of problems. And those are getting down to some things, which is about making things that automated and with high quality. And we went into a client and they were in the meat industry, and we saw that they were short shipping about 22% on these orders from their customers. But unlike apparel and other things like that, where you can ship it later, in the meat industry, if you don't fulfill it, you lose it. And their turnover was somewhere around $700 million a year. And so 22%, just even in being able to show that, and what is that a symptom of, is getting demand wrong, right? Not aligning all their stuff. And then we took it a step further and said, okay, Well, now we'll help understand and forecast revenue optimization based on where these different cuts are going within that industry. And then we can feed back into the cut trees around with the cows around how you splice them up to maximize revenues as well as fulfill demand, right? And it's a game-changing outcome for that client.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting. I was at just one of those stores at my butcher's on Saturday, and I saw a food program in the cooking program about doing pork chops. And I was like, we're having pork chops for tea. Talking to my daughter all the way down to town to order that. Walked in, no pork. And he went, yeah, there wasn't any.
No.
The distributor just had none. I was like, what do you mean had none? He went, no, had none, right? And that's that demand planning and all those kind of things that we kind of don't see as consumers, but actually the back office of all the people that supply stuff is huge. So going back to so I phoned my customer and said I can solve a big problem for you. What are the key stages that I then go through with UBIX? So I make the call. They go, that's really interesting, Chris. Come and have a chat. And then I walk in and I go, right, these are the key stages we now need to go through. You've got that kind of, obviously the platform. It's a platform approach. It's a repeatability approach. So could you just
typically when we've automated all of our deployments for customers, and every customer that signs up gets the full deployment of their big data infrastructure, and from your data store all the way to your modeling environment, your production environment, all gets automated and updated same day, right? So you can be up and running same day, and then the first step is to connect it to your data silos, right? And so we have connection space inside of our data space product that allows you to put in your credentials and actually connect and actually start to interact with that data across your ERP system, across your CRM system, across your inventory, management software, all these different supply chain management software, all these different things are now inputs that you have created this data playground within UBIX. And then you can start on that journey of solving these problems. And there's two real ways that you can solve problems within UBIX. And it's our model space product. And it allows you to either consume from our model space library a pre-canned solution and get up and running same day, where you actually, it pulls in, it knows what the source data that it relies upon. And once you've connected in that source data into that model, you hit run. It runs through and solves all the problems, trains the models, and then allows you to productionize it. And so you can be up and running really fast with pre-canned solutions that we have. And then you can always tweak and evolve them over time, either with our partners here at Sapphire, or we can also help as UBIX, right? And so as an extension of the Sapphire team. And so it's about rapid, getting up and running, time to value, focusing on the problems, not focusing on the infrastructure. And then the second piece is we call a solution type, which is like goal setting. So if I want to do, let's say, a transaction forecast, based on this transaction, like sales orders, purchase orders, and I want to forecast those out. It's like a guardrails of problem solving. So it'll when we pull in the certain data, it has already profiled the data, and it tells us certain data shaping things that it's going to do, and in preparation for, and it's going to train it off against certain models like LSTM, XGBoost, Sarima, Arima, those type of models, is that because we know that those are the right models for that type of pursuit. And so they don't need to know anything about that. And they step through a guided hand workflow, and not being a data scientist, they can build a time series forecast based on sales orders to build out a demand forecast without any need for any technical help.
Well, and I think you just nailed it, that last piece, because I think you did four different things. Again, I'm sitting there going, scratching my head, going, I wonder what they are, right? And I think that's the critical thing for people watching today is you genuinely don't have to have data scientists or even understand what the models are doing, because they're standardized models that effectively you can connect your data to really quickly and get some output.
Yeah, and data scientists we have a ton of data scientists that use our product also. Yeah, it allows them to accelerate and deliver value for their customers, and their customers being the business side of the house. So there's, we employ a ton of data scientists inside of UBIX, and data scientists do see that they can very rapidly use these different components to bring things to life much more quickly than doing it as a traditional data science process. But you don't need to be a data scientist, and that's the beauty of it. Is it allows you to you think of it as like our platform is like the iPhone, and our model space library is like the apps, right? You can bring those to life just on demand and as you see fit, and that's truly unique about UBIX.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? I think in the whole of the digital space now, we're seeing this low code, no code across workflows, across integrations, across data, and then across automation, which we're really strong in as well, right? So the ability to reconfigure, to get insights into your business, to automate it without a legion of really deep specialists behind that is incredible, and it's incredibly powerful. I guess a couple of questions before we finish. Is the size of business that can use UBIX? Because again, I think going back to automation is a great example. Go back 5 years, you had to be an enterprise to even think about having decent sized automation in your business. We've now got, going back to my example, we've got a £20 million business with 2 digital workers now inside their business, which would have been unimaginable 5 years ago, I guess. So the size of business, that would be a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, so we have our smallest customer is about $5 million a year. Our biggest customer is many billions. And so there's really any customer can benefit from this, right? Because it allows you to do everything you would do building it yourself, right? But you just don't have to do that, right? You can focus 100% of your effort on the problem and bringing innovation to your business and not focusing on infrastructure building, right? And so I would say the sweet spot for us is probably in that, billion, like 100 million to about $1 billion range is kind of the sweet, where it becomes like a no-brainer.
Because it's it's a big enough problem to solve, right?
Yeah, and they all have analytics journeys that they're on so there's not as big of an education around why this is important, and so those things tend to go quickly. They see that this is the best path for them versus trying to build it themselves. And so it just becomes a much more elegant interaction with companies in that sweet spot. But inside, we've got one of the largest companies in the world that we're in a project with right now that is around, they built their own standalone thing, but it's hard to maintain. They've had huge turnover in the data science area, and it's almost untenable. It's just this spaghetti string of one-off use cases, right? And they're almost not effective anymore. And so the maintenance that goes into it. And so now they're looking to UBIX, which is something that we didn't really anticipate at this stage of our life cycle, that these huge companies would be looking at us as a legitimate alternative to building it themselves. And that's a huge shift that's happened, just in this last year, that we're seeing more and more people walk away from what they built in exchange for something like UBIX.
Yeah, and I guess, and before I ask you the final question, I guess we saw the Great Resignation. We did a survey of our customers halfway through COVID. Is 50% didn't have the data they had the data, they didn't have the insights they needed to run their business, and 15% were just guessing how they made decisions, right? So, and then you couple that with, we need more data, we need more insight from our data, but we can't get the people. So and I think large corporations, I think figure these things out, and you can see that trend. So final question. Thank you for being a guest on the Digital Garden. I guess we like to. Where are we now? November, nearly Christmas. I'm not going to ask you what the top 3 Christmas presents are going to be in the world, because you've obviously figured that out within the UBIX models. But as we look into 23, certainly in the UK, I know in the US, I was a couple of weeks, there's a inflation problem. Don't think it's a problem. It might be a crisis for some people, but it's a problem. We're certainly seeing the sustainability agenda in terms of highly efficiency of the business. Are there a couple of trends that you're looking at within UBIX where you go, actually, we can we think that's going to be a big thing next year for companies, or is it business as usual kind of?
Yeah, and so everyone's there is heightened uncertainty, right? And that's across anywhere, whether it's supply chain or fintech or anything like that. And people are looking to prepare to do more with less, right?
Yeah.
And that's where automation comes in. That's where digital transformation comes in, and that's where AI and data science comes in, or the entire advanced analytics pursuit. Is that it allows you to do more with less, right? For one, most companies really aren't getting value out of their data, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of times they have the misconception that their data isn't good, right? We haven't come into a company yet where the data was not good and value couldn't be achieved from it quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that is where the aha moment comes in, is that data is a powerful asset. And I think that trend will continue and that awareness will continue to grow around that evolution and into our craft, right? Of people saying, and then looking to say, okay, well, we didn't think that we could do this initiative because we didn't have the multi-seven-figure budget. We were not in an industry that can attract some of the top data science talent, but we want to have these benefits. And that's where UBIX is a wonderful thing, because it allows them to achieve it. But I would say that the trend is really a general uncertainty. Our pipeline has grown significantly because in times of plenty, everyone's smart. Everyone's doing everything right.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You're awash with goodness, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. We can do no wrong, right? But it's in these times where people reset and start looking at how do we do things better, and it's a good thing. It's a healthy process that people go through. So we've seen a huge uptick in our business as that uncertainty has increased, right? And it could be whether we're helping out a given department in a very large organization, or we're that entire automation data science pursuit. We're here to help, right? It's just a very helpful product that allows people to really transform their business. But I think the focus on data will continue.
Yeah.
The uncertainty will definitely continue, and the need for these type of capabilities will be heightened. And so we're excited about it. We're excited to help these companies that are going through this new chapter in their evolution, and we think that we're the best product out there to help them.
Yeah, fantastic. And I guess the final thing is, in an uncertain world, is we're there to help it be as lessons, as more certain than it is at the minute, right? The more we can use data to make decision making and insights and businesses a little bit more certain, that's a good thing, right?
And allowing the customer to get to ROI fast, right? Because both of that's where we really gelled as businesses, is that our focus is around bringing people to ROI.
Time to value is everything, isn't it? Right.
And then it creates this kind of, what we see is that we focus in around a specific use case, get them up and running quick. They start getting the benefit. They see the ROI. Then they're immediately going, well, I've got this wish list of doing these other things, right? So it's a fun, perpetual improvement journey that people go on once they start seeing data and its power within their business. And so it's a fun journey to watch.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I hope you enjoyed that and found that interesting. I think unlocking that data digital dividend, there you go, the 3Ds, I think has never been more important. So John, thank you for
thank you
for joining us in the Digital Garden, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.